Yeah. Pete, Newt Gingrich has said, not just this morning on Maria Bartiromo's show, but in other interviews, he's encouraging the president, and he's an ally of the president and is a huge supporter of him. But he's encouraging the president to read Mitch McConnell's book, The Long Game, and McConnell is not going anywhere, and they basically need to make nice.
Well, maybe that is eventually where it needs to go. But if it's such a long game that we're all dead by the time it succeeds, then it's too long of a game, and it's not worth it.
I agree.
I mean, losing is losing. Failing is failing. Trying doesn't count. So Orrin Hatch can say he's the best majority leader ever. By what standard? By the fact that they passed a bunch of show votes when they weren't in charge, and now they are in charge and they can't get anything done? I'll give him credit for Neil Gorsuch, but that was also a good pick by this president. There's not very few grassroots conservatives out there that lay the failures in Washington so far at the feet of Donald Trump. They lay them at the feet of establishment Republicans, whether it's Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski or Ben Sasse or all these guys who are out there crowing about Trump rather than getting in line behind somebody who wants to pass conservative ideas and do what they said they want to do. I don't get it.
I want to ask Trish about this because my theory is the market is not selling off on the North Korea rhetoric. Now, we've got a little bit of a bounce back in the market today, but worst week maybe since the end of March. It's because you have this tension between Trump and McConnell, and the agenda is at risk. We're talking about raising the debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling next month, keeping the government open, getting a budget in place just to even lay the groundwork for tax reform.
But that tension's been there. The risks are increasing with North Korea.
Not this week. You have Mitch McConnell taking a shot at Donald Trump and Donald Trump taking shots back at Mitch McConnell.
You know, it's a combination perhaps of all of the above. I think as far as geopolitical risk, typically, and it's hard to know in these situations, but typically the markets have always bounced back from that. I mean, you look at this over the long term, and yes, we've had geopolitical problems before. The market goes down, always comes back. So there might be something to this. The real fear, of course, is that you don't get tax reform. And if we don't get corporate tax reform, that's going to have an effect on earnings. That's going to have an effect on the market. And so that's perhaps what underlies all of this. That, North Korea, Mitch McConnell, et cetera, how much is all of this going to interfere with the tax reform that investors so
with that rhetoric
want?
With Mitch McConnell and fellow Republicans, does the president risk alienate those that he needs? I mean, that is a real risk, not getting tax reform done by the end of the year.
And it's smart, because from where I sit, I feel like I'm missing something. Because isn't Mitch McConnell one of the only Republicans, certainly in a leadership position, that has stood by the president, has been on board with him since the campaign?
But the president has made that very clear that does not stop him from being critical.
What he said the other day,
he's not leading,
was barely a criticism of the president. I mean, it was the first time I have heard Mitch McConnell say anything that went contrary to what the president has been saying. I mean, he has been right there with him every step of the way on the agenda. He said himself, I agree with the president's goals on health care.
So the excessive expectations
my question is it smart for the president, if we're looking strategy, is it smart for him to try and potentially throw Mitch McConnell under the bus?
It's worked for him to say that winning matters and we should double down on doing what we said we're going to do. If the Republican Party, we had Kevin Brady on the radio, he's releasing a plan to put your taxes on a postcard. If the Republican Party can't do tax reform, and they can't do Obama repeal and replace, then they might as well just
you're getting ahead of yourself.
Disband it. They ran on this.
You're getting your head of yourself. You have to keep the government open and avoid a debt default by the end of the month. I'll predict this. This ain't getting done this year. This is a disaster. And by the way, to call Mitch McConnell a leader is a misnomer because he's not leading. He's had 7 years. 7 years.
It's very frustrating.